Alright lads, I was going to talk about Kentucky Rider and finally give him his own video on the channel since he is out over on the JP version of the game, available to be picked up permanently. Already made a video talking about that if you're curious, but then the NA version of the game was like, you know what if we also just dropped the Servant Strengthening Quest part 13? And I'm like, you know what, that's all fine and dandy. I get to talk about some servant buffs that are coming out on the NA version of the game, and we're kind of getting all these fluff filler celebration stuff out of the way first, and then we'll do Grail Live and everything afterwards. So I'm a huge fan of this. Get all the other normie stuff out of here, all these like short, like week-long things, just cram them all together, give them to me now so we can just hurry up and get to Lost Belt 6 so I can summon for Morgan and then cry myself to sleep. But anyway, if you guys enjoy daily FGO content, make sure you leave a like on the video and you subscribe to the channel for that sweet, sweet daily FGO content, as your boy is trying to make sure that you are always informed on the goings-on on both the NA and the JP version of the game. Also, if you want to see me play games live, primarily FGO, but I'm dabbling with some other games, I do that every weekday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at my Twitch, which is linked in the description down below. But with all that being said, let's start getting into this, starting off with Vlad. Now, Vlad is kind of a huge one, right? Because we just got Galatea, who is a single target arts berserker. Then they buff Vlad's NP, which is really good one because they take the damage scaling. This is a huge deal because he basically hits as hard as old Vlad's NP2, which I'm really curious to see how this is going to affect me personally, because I've been spooked by this guy twice. So my Vlad was already hitting this hard, and now he's going to be up to here. So I think Vlad, for me, is going to be absolutely great. So keep that in mind. Your Vlad is going to get a lot of extra damage out of this NP upgrade, but then also you'll notice he's going to be getting a bonus to this reduced arts resistance by 20% for 3 turns. This is actually really strong because as an art servant, you want to be spamming your NP back to back to back to back to back, and this is going to reward you for being able to do that because every subsequent NP is going to be doing even more damage. So not only is he getting bonus damage because they ranked up his NP, but they also were like, you know what, every NP that you fire in succession is going to do even more damage, and these stack on top of each other. So they literally said, hey man, I know you like damage, so I put damage on your damage to give you more damage. Do you want to do some damage? Yeah, that's kind of what Vlad becomes. He becomes really, really strong after this. Galatea is still very good. Keep in mind that she should also be getting her buff towards the end of the year, and then it kind of becomes this little thing where like, well, Galatea's got the triple buster deck that makes her really consistent because she loops NP off of that, but Vlad is just going to hit like an absolute nuclear missile, especially on NPs like 2 and 3. Then we have Rama over here. Now, I think Rama is a very, very strong buff that they give him because his NP was, let's be honest, non-existent. Like, this really is not anything. And they at least tried to do the same thing they did for Vlad, where they were like, yeah, dude, every time you fire an NP, you're going to be lowering their buster resistance by 20% for 3 turns. So if you can fire like 2 NPs back to back, you'll do a lot of damage. And we're really doubling down on this anti-demonic damage mod, which, you know, granted, is really good, right? Demonic is a very good damage mod to have, so anytime he fires it, he's lowering their NP gauge, so he's getting a little bit of party survivability, controlling what the enemy is able to do. The only problem that I have, and I guess the main problem I found with Rama, is that it is a little bit hard to fire a second NP after you fire the first one, right? It can be a little bit difficult to get this man to fire other NPs. So while this is really good, you're going to have to invest very heavily into it to make sure that you're actually getting this bonus extra damage. But at the very least, I suppose his buster cards over here, if you've got some crits lined up or whatever, you can do some really nasty buster crits because you will be reinforcing any buster crits like this that you're going to be doing with this buster down over here. So that's kind of a good way to maybe look at it as well if you want to, you know, not focus on doing back-to-back NPs, but maybe doing like an NP and then having really strong buster crits follow up on it. That could be a really good way of looking at it, but it's a good step in the right direction. Rama definitely needs more help though before we can really call this guy nutty broken. Then we have Kojo, and this one, I was surprised we didn't even have this buff already. Like, I could have sworn we already had this, but nope, apparently it comes with 13, and okay, I guess I'm just a crazy person because I thought he already had this, but apparently Kojo just gets even better because every time he attacks, he's going to hit the enemy with quick resistance down. You can definitely tell that they were a huge fan of resistance down during this buffing period, but yeah, it basically kind of makes him similar to, say, Okita in a way, right? Like, you know how Okita, the more she attacks, the more attack buff she's getting, and so she stacks up a lot of damage. Kojo's doing that, right, which is pretty nice because he's got the triple quick deck. So anytime you're using his quick cards, you're going to hit him with quick resistance down for 3 turns. And so you can really build this up really, really fastly, especially because he's got a quick NP as well. So like a quick chain is going to result in the enemy being smacked with 30% quick down, and then that lasts for 3 turns. So you do another NP, it's going to take advantage of that and lower it some more for other quick cards and stuff. It could just get out of hand really, really quickly, especially if you're using Kojo in like a one-on-one scenario, right, where it's just him and the enemy. Very, very strong. They also apparently buffed the Ramunzo debuffs because it was mental debuffs for whatever reason. I don't know what. I mean, these are really good to be able to take out, but the problem is that, like, if you get charmed, you can't cleanse your own charm because you're charmed. You know, if you're stunned, you can't cleanse your stun because you're stunned. I really want them to actually buff this as like a little side note. I really hope they change this to, like, if you have a like debuff cleanse, you can use it even when you're like charmed or stunned, because it doesn't make any sense that you can cleanse them but you can't use it to prevent that from happening. You know, anybody else think that's a little bit weird? But yeah, I hope they fix that in the future. But yeah, now he can remove any buff, right? So if he gets like attack down or something, you can remove that and, you know, continue having him just absolutely dice everybody up. Next is Kkatado. This is just a nice little buff they gave her. It's not super insane. It's not super broken. It's just nice. It gives her a little bit of extra starting power, I guess you could say. Like on turn 1, when you immediately run up on the boss, you don't have to worry about jetting stars or anything, because she's going to bomb 25 as a rider with naturally high star weight over there. And then she has the star weight skill over here. She's pretty much guaranteed to suck all those up, do some nice crits for the turn, maybe even smack him with an NP following up with those crits as well. So Kets's is like not really insane or anything, not a whole lot to talk about, but it is just nice. It's like more convenient than anything, and you know, I'm pretty much here for it. Just give her some more buffs, please. I mean, we've been giving Ozymandias all these buffs all over the place. Where are my Kets buffs? All right, let's buff her NP or something. You know, we gave Ozymandias the that like can grant themselves the sunlight battlefield thing. We could do something like that with Kkatado. You know, she's like the sun. Have you seen her NP? It's crazy. Ching, this was one that I actually wasn't the biggest fan of, but then I was like, actually, this plays really well into like what Ching is actually doing, which, I mean, for all 2 of you that have ever used this guy, he just gens a lot of stars, right? He just drops stars all over the place. That's kind of like what he wants to do, right? You got like this huge star drop rate skill over here. You just want to drop them all over the place and be making a whole bunch of stars. And then he wants to do a lot of crits. So it's kind of nice because usually you put your NP and then your crits after your NP. And so what this does is it lowers enemies' quick resistance and it gives them more crit damage. So the following crits will do a lot more damage, especially if they're quick crits, and you know, quick crits with Scotty go really, really hard. So I kind of like the way that they did this, actually. I like that it's kind of meant to be used as like, you know, he genned a lot of stars or whatever, and then, okay, now we're going to fire the NP. We got crits backing it up. They're going to get even stronger following the NP, and I think that's a really cool idea. I don't know if it's like particularly super great or anything. Like, I don't know if it's broken, but, you know, I think it's neat at the very least. You know, I think it's cool. Then we have Moriarty. The main thing with Moriarty is that now he pretty much pierces everything with both of these, and then now he can just turn his second skill over here online that requires 10 stars, because he's going to bomb 20 stars over here. So yeah, Moriarty basically just turns the second skill online, which is pretty good because it gives everybody the evil alignment, and that combos with his third skill that gives everybody basically a 40% attack buff for 3 turns, which is really, really high. So again, just a very, very nice buff for Moriarty. I think this is like a little bit more impactful than the Kets one because, you know, it's at least turning on his second skill, and they also tacked on the Pierce defense. So it kind of makes me wonder why they went so soft with Kets's buff. It's very strange. I mean, same thing for Artoria Lance over here. I mean, it's very nice that they took this from being 1 turn to making it 3 times for 3 turns. If you don't know why this is good, is that if you are that one guy that wants to use Lance or Artoria for farming, I don't know how you're going to do it because she only has a 20% battery, but I imagine it makes it a little bit easier. But if you're that guy, it means that now, instead of only being able to use this for 1 wave, you can use it for all 3 waves. Because if you're 3-turn farming, you're only ever going to use the Buster card 3 times, right? Because it's going to be your 3 NPs, so this doesn't really matter. You get to carry it through all 3 nodes. It makes her damage more consistent for farming. I don't know why they gave her the 20%, because even when they originally put this out, they knew they were going to put Koyenskaya out in like a few months after this, and now Lasengle knows, and I'm like, bro, Lasengle, you couldn't have just kicked this up by like 10%, like through Artoria Lance or a bone. Because if you don't know, you know, buster farming, ideally, you would like to have someone that has like a 50% battery. That's kind of like the big people that Koyenskaya really wants to work with. 30% can also work just fine, but once we start straying away from that, things can start to get a little iffy. Things can start to get a little jank, if you will. They can start to look a little bit weird. I'm not gonna say it's impossible, because I'm sure there is some random YouTube video out there of someone being like, all right, I got my max K-scope and I'm loaded up on like my double Koyenskayas and whoever else, right? And I somehow was able to make it work. I don't even think that actually works. I know I'm kind of slowly doing the math in my head. I actually don't know if that will actually get you across the finish line. I feel like even with Oberon, you're just going to end up with like 90% NP on the third node. But then again, well, no, because I was going to say you could use the append skill, but no, because that only applies at the very beginning of battle. I don't know how you would do it, but I'm sure somebody has done it. Let's leave it at that. But yeah, that's pretty much all of the buffs. The main ones are like Vlad gets really, really good. Rama starts moving in the right direction. Kojo gets even better. Kkatado becomes a little bit more convenient to use. Ching over here moves in an interesting direction. Moriarty becomes way easier to use, and that's why I think he's actually pretty decent after his buff. A very solid option if you weren't using him before. And then Lancer Alter becomes interesting as an option, I suppose. I was saying on stream, because we saw that they announced this earlier today when we were streaming, and I was like, look, just buff the third skill, give her like a 10% party-wide battery, bring this up to 20%, and then give it like 10-20% NP damage for 3 turns or something like that, and dust your hands off, and she becomes really, really solid. But let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments down below. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace. Late, guys.